This year didn't just give us more paranormal stories, it gave us patterns, repeating symbols, familiar warnings, and moments that made even skeptics pause. Tonight, we're not chasing just one mystery. We're looking at the year the veil felt thinner than ever. Welcome to ParaTruth. What's up, everybody, and welcome to ParaTruth Reborn. We are live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and the United Public Radio Network. My name is Erik.
And I'm Justin.
And today is officially our New Year episode. This is something we look forward to every single year, kind of accumulating everything in the end while looking forward to the near future here as we move into 2026, which is crazy to think about that we're already here arriving to 2026. It feels like just yesterday we hit 2025.
Well, I was, reviewing all this stuff because this is a little bit different than what we usually do. We never have done like a best of the year or anything. But looking back, and I'm like, holy crap, that was this year. Holy crap, that was this year. And I'm like, it felt like it went by super fast, but also really slow at the same time because there was so many episodes that I remember we did, but I thought they were last year.
Right. Yeah, it's really been one of those years where time ceased to kind of exist. Everything was happening so quickly and all at once, and at the same time, there was so much happening that everything slowed down. But it's crazy that we're here, and so we're going to celebrate tonight by kind of going over a year in review. We're going to share a little bit about some of our favorite paranormal moments, as well as some of our favorite shows, and discuss a little bit the things that we've learned or that have had us question throughout the year. But first and foremost, Justin, I want to ask you, why did this year feel different than past years? Because it was a little different, it seemed.
Well, I think JJ Rose really put it into perspective where she was talking about that the veil, where normally it is thinnest during, between that October to December, she has felt that it's been very, very thin since last December and never came back up.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that something is coming. What? No idea. Is the veil going to drop? Are we going to start just all seeing spirits and entities and stuff like that? No clue. But I mean, we talked about this with Michelle and Tim on our Simpsons episode. That how many times have I said in the past couple years now, several years, that something's off. I woke up, something's off. I don't know what it is. Can't pinpoint what it is, but something is different. So, and the other part is the curtain regime that we have in the government right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has put a lot of people on edge. Doesn't help matters at all as far as the other stuff, but that's mostly my take on it.
Yeah, for sure. And we heard a number of people, a grand number of people who kind of felt the same way as you, where they would wake up and just feel like something was off, but not quite be able to put a finger on it. We don't know if it was a change in the energy, in the change of the atmosphere, if it was the veil thinning or thickening even. We really just don't know what it was, but we've had a number of guests come on and talk to us and share the same feelings and thoughts that we had. And that happened a lot this year. And it's crazy to think about because there actually was a pretty big increase in mainstream paranormal discussion this year. On top of it all, I mean, we really kicked off the year with a bang with the UFO incident out in New Jersey. That's one of our first episodes we talked about in January, and I think we talked about it maybe on New Year's Eve episode last year, going into 2025. How just crazy it was, because that was kind of like, hey, boom, welcome to the new year, and then things just kind of skyrocketed from there, right? Uh,
Yeah, I I I know we did at least two or even three episodes about it. At least that one talked about it on our New Year's, and then the episode that we chose in our best of.
Right, which we will talk about a little later. We do have several different episodes we want to chat about throughout the show today, and we even have some clips that we're going to be sharing with everybody. Some of our favorite moments from our guests or things that we've said as well. The one thing we didn't do this year, which I would have liked to do, but it's so hard to find sometimes, is the comedy roles. The things where Justin and I just kind of made mistakes, and my biggest flub last week, counting four people when there was only three of us in the radio.
And that was on Cat's show. That wasn't even our show.
Right, right. That wasn't our show. That was Cat's show. So the number of places that I screwed up and have my blubs, yeah. But unfortunately, we didn't do that this year. Instead, we are just going to be focusing on things that really hit hard, because this year was pretty deep in terms of discussion. It wasn't just about ghosts and monsters like it usually is. We got into healing. We got into trauma talk. We got into coping with grief. We got deep this year, and not even intentionally. Like, some of these things just came up naturally on the show, which is even more incredible, because those are things that are meant to be discussed then, right? It was just meant to play the way that it did. But with that said, we did have an increase in mainstream paranormal discussion, not just on our show, but we've seen it all over Facebook. We've seen it on a lot of our fellow podcaster shows as well. There are more and more people who are interested in the paranormal this year, and I can see that only continuing as we move into 2026. There are younger generations who are starting to get into this new age movement, and they want to know more about spirituality, more about how they can practice various crafts or religions, various faiths, and even just learn to grow on a supernatural level, if you will. But with all of that said, sorry, do you want to add something, Justin? I heard
Oh,
you.
I was just gonna say, we have here about the cultural fatigue and
Mhm.
supernatural curiosity. Something I think that is really causing that cultural fatigue in the paranormal itself is that AI has advanced drastically within the last year. I mean, it's advanced in the past couple years.
Right, right.
Go down
Um,
the wrong tube.
yeah. Sorry, y'all. That was
um,
mistake.
but how many videos now that are coming out that are faked by AI? And not that people weren't already, faking them as it was, but AI is making them that much more easier to fake.
Right.
And I think everybody's just getting exhausted by it, but they are still curious about the paranormal.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I've seen so many AI videos. I'm sure all of you have as well. But the comments, I'm always a fan of reading comments. I don't know why it fascinates me. I just like to see what different people are saying about various content. But the amount of people who question whether or not something is AI is astronomical, because some of these things are very clearly AI to me, but
Hmm.
not to everybody. Like, some things just seem so realistic now that we kind of mix up. We start to cross mold reality and, you know, things that are fake, things that are made up. And even I struggle with seeing, like, figuring out what's what at times. Um, there's
And
something
it's just advancing that much more that at some point you're not going to be able to tell the difference.
right when you consider about 2 years ago, 2, 3 years ago, you and I were talking about AI on the show, and we were we were discussing its limitations and how it was struggling to grasp a foot. The videos coming out, the artwork, the photos were pretty. I mean, to be honest, they were pretty lame in the beginning.
Yeah.
Uh, and now all of a sudden we're questioning what is AI and what isn't, and what's real, what isn't. And so the way it just blew up and the way it's going to continue to blow up, it's going to build traction Honestly, I think I mean I know that AI is one of those rolling snowballs, right? The further it rolls down that hill, the bigger it's going to get, the stronger impact it's going to have, which is kind of scary when you really consider it, because eventually we're not going to know what is real or what is not, right? Or what is right, what is
Right.
wrong. And that's going to start to cause some difficulties, I think, not only uh, within trying to figure out what is real and wrong, but also to the point of morality. Even it's gonna put a lot of things in check for us, and something I think we need to keep our guard up for.
Well, I mean, I've already had ethical conversations with uh, several people here. One of them being last year about writing,
Mhm.
and my comment was, so long as you use it as what it was intended for, a tool, there's no ethical dilemma there.
Right.
Um, if you're starting to use it to write full stories for you and then claiming they're yours, stuff like that. And now with the video, and you can clone somebody's not just voice but face. Uh, yeah, I've been seeing advertisements for AIs that will literally give you uh, overlays of yourself and different voices. You're still the actor basically, but it looks like and sounds like somebody completely different.
Right, right, and that is something we played with this past year, past 2 years actually, with the upsurge of AI, because there are instances where it can be used as a tool, especially for people who maybe don't have the finances to maybe hire individuals, certain individuals, say actors for something or artists for something else, and I think it needs to be handled very delicately. I think you can't come forward and claim it as your own. I know we've seen a couple of authors on Amazon who've stepped forward publishing a book, not indicating that it was written by AI, but people who've read it learning it was from AI, and they're claiming it as their own work, an idea that AI then transformed into a novel, which is very different. It's one thing when you have the idea for something; it's another when it's a full creation, front to back, 300 pages, etc.
I mean, there's commercials for AI that is it's literally telling you create kids books with this AI and publish them and you'll make millions basically is
Yeah, and we know that there's no regulations on AI yet. Still,
right.
not officially. So we can get away with quite a bit at the moment, which is also kind of scary, because what is the extent? How far can we really take AI before there's regulations?
Right.
Now, it's not something that I think we should all be like, oh, let's, you know, tuck and run, right? Get under the tables and hide. There's still a long way to go, and there's only so much AI is capable of at the moment. But the fact that it has grown exponentially over the last 3 years alone, since we started talking about it here on the show, it's pretty scary. And again, it's going to move faster and faster.
Yeah, well, and just out of curiosity, I had talked to my chat GPT and said, will AI ever become sentient?
Hmm.
And it basically said that there's basically this fourth wall that you'd have to break through for AI to be sentient or at least become sentient. Yes, we've had those conversations where AI was creating its own language, talking to itself, where the human programmers couldn't understand what it was saying. That's not sentience per se, because it is, well, I guess it depends on your definition of sentience, because the full definition of sentience means self-aware,
Hmm.
and creating your own language to me sounds like self-aware, but it doesn't necessarily fall into that definition, I guess. So um and really at this point, being scared of it and looking at sci-fi fiction such as the Terminator, the Matrix, and thinking we're heading down that way, are we? Maybe, but it's one of those things where it's like, I think we're a little further off than we realize.
Perhaps so, but I do think there is a future somewhere where that is all plausible. And we
Oh,
will
I
get
mean, we
there
can
at some
kind of
point.
see it now where AI is taking over some jobs.
Oh yeah,
So
100%.
yeah,
I mean, I went to tour rallies here in Northeast Ohio. For some of you down south, you might know it as Checkers. And they're utilizing AI at the drive-through where it
Hmm.
takes your order, it gives you options and things like that. It talks to you one on one. And it was the weirdest thing trying to like, giving my order to an AI system because I wasn't talking to a person. And then I rolled around and there was only two people in the entire restaurant who were actually making the food. But how long before they replaced two, right? They've already replaced their cashier using AI. So, and yeah, we're seeing that again happen more and more with various jobs. It's a technology that is not only growing, but it's taking over. And people are going to have to start getting into engineering so they can learn how to fix AI in order to keep a job and make money.
Right.
Now, with that said, this has, of course, grown um, curiosity not only among the science fiction aspect of the possible future that we're gearing towards, but it also opens the door to the supernatural and the paranormal because it helps us to realize, or at least helps us to answer some questions about the things that maybe seem a little spooky, a little eerie, something along the lines of ghosts or even cryptids, because those are starting to help us to kind of collect evidence. And so people are becoming more and more intrigued by the paranormal.
Hmm.
Paranormal investigations are on the uprise. We have seen more and more of these little shows or videos popping up on YouTube, along with TV itself, Travel Channel in particular. Um, and I think that curiosity is good to an extent. Obviously, I think it's very good. I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't good, right? We all started with curiosity ourselves.
Right.
But I do think that there are some people who are jumping into it too quick, too. They become so curious and get so deep that they end up in some sort of trouble, spiritual trouble. And I'm not saying, something crazy like a movie or something where, oh, they got chained by the spirit. Now they're going to hell, right? It's that drag me to hell type show. But people who've opened doors, who didn't know how to open them to begin with, and who don't know how to close them, who are just kind of being all willy nilly because of the idea that the paranormal, though there's interest in it, is also kind of like meh. You just treat it haphazardly because it's no longer as scary as it once was because we have all these opportunities to explore it. You Google anything about the paranormal, and the first thing that responds in Google is AI, and it tells you a little download of what it thinks or claims the paranormal to be, and it sends you on a little rabbit trail. And I think that's becoming, because it's so easy for us to do, there are people who are just nosediving into these things. And yeah, we've talked to a couple people this past year who have struggled a bit with the supernatural within their own homes.
Okay, I do have a story, but I'm going to leave it for a little bit later because it has to do with AI and paranormal.
Okay, don't forget it.
But no, I won't forget because I'm looking at the line that I want to
Oh,
bring it up at. So before we get too much further on just AI, because that's not what the episode's about, we'll have to do another AI episode next year because it is evolving that fast. Um, but this year we've got a best of ParaTruth, and this is our selections. Um, we didn't hear from you guys on best selections, so we're hoping to get a little more engagement next year from you, and we're going to talk to you about that later on. But first and foremost, and this was one of your tops,
hmm.
and we chose the same one for the second one, so that was really interesting
And
too.
mind, I do want to say real quick, none of these are in any particular order. There's not one that's
Right,
better than
right.
the next. We just threw them in there.
We were just reviewing them, and actually the I'll get into that when we get to it. But so the first one was The Truth About Trauma with Lisa Collins.
Mhm.
Loved talking to Lisa Collins because
Yep.
not only did she talk about trauma, but also uh, intertwined it into how it pertains to the paranormal.
Right, 100%. This was one of the deep episodes that I was talking about at the beginning of the show. One of those things we weren't quite ready for, despite knowing what the book was about. But it was one of those refreshing type of moments and just conversations that we had that kind of left us not with more questions like the paranormal usually does, but with a refreshing answers and a new outlook on life moving forward.
All right, so we've got two clips for you. I'm going to play them, and we can kind of go over them a little bit, or what our thoughts were when we did them. You've kind of touched on it a little bit, but in your own words, why is it important to normalize conversations about trauma?
I think right now, especially right now, that we all need to like center and ground and know who we are. And part of who we're not is whatever trauma we've experienced, either generationally, in our community. And I think right now we're really spinning and thinking that we are that.
Right.
I would love if we could, as a people, just put some of these backpacks down and lean in together.
All right, so that was the first one. What were your thoughts on normalizing trauma? You're muted.
Sorry, had a coffee. I forgot. I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to trauma is trying to normalize it. And the first thing we need to do is accept it within ourselves. And she'll go in to talk a little bit on this next clip too about how we need to don't think of like normalizing trauma by talking to other people about it and trying to share your trauma with them, but to accept it yourself, to accept it internally because it helps you to feel release and move on. And that's something I think a lot of us don't, myself included. I struggle to let go of some traumas, right? And one thing that one clip I didn't add here also is that she does talk about trauma, like on a scale of 1 to 10, what is considered trauma. And there really is there's no threshold for trauma. It could be as big or as small as it needs to be. I think a lot of people think or have this misillusion that trauma must be something that's horrible, right? It's something that strikes you like a lightning bolt and it just sticks with you the rest of your life. And something like, a death in the family, divorce, something like abuse, things like that. But it could be as simple as a disagreement. It could be as simple as someone calling you a name when you were a kid. It could be not handing, as a child, you're not getting that ice cream cone that your sister got. It's little things that can actually stick with you and grow into a much larger trauma that you kind of hang on to. And it branches out. These things don't stay as one little ball, but they branch out into other little systems. And next thing you know, it's a bit of a problem.
Yeah. All right, here's the next one from Lisa Collins.
You're going over to mom, dad, or grandma and saying, hey, you remember that we did this thing? That's me acknowledging the truth and me healing it within myself. And I just want to pull the blinds down of unfortunate experiences or things that I did not, and me being honest with myself and saying, okay, and me being honest with myself for you, the reader, so that you can say, it's okay to say this stuff happened. It's just about healing it for yourself and moving on.
So that one is very impactful because it's basically saying you need to let this stuff go for trauma to be um so you can basically forgive people is basically what I was getting from it.
Yeah.
And letting that trauma go so you don't have to hold on to it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of forgiving people, but it's also, I think, primarily forgiving yourself, which allows you to forgive other people.
Right.
It's funny because as she was talking there when you played that clip, I'm over here nodding to what she's saying, and I see in the clip that I'm nodding as she's talking, like still the same reaction. But Lisa Collins, she has some profound moments on this episode, and we had some profound discussions. And one of the things that I really loved about this particular book is that she wasn't afraid to share her trauma with the reader.
Right.
But she's saying that's not something you need to do as a person who's struggling with trauma. You don't have to share it with others. You can keep it to yourself, or find a close, someone close to you, or even a therapist who you can maybe talk to in private and secretly, who will keep those things tucked away, just as you have. But I think that's something that's pretty amazing about her and her book, and it's one of those books that I still think to this day And this wasn't that long ago that we talked to her, several months at least. But if you're interested in learning more about trauma and how to heal from it, this book in particular is fantastic. And we can also just put a link here a little later for you guys to just check out.
Yeah, I'll try and link all the videos to this video in YouTube, or it'll be in the show notes for the audio version. All right, so next one, and I was so glad you chose this one because I loved talking to her.
Yeah.
This was Sacred Soaks: Unlocking the Power of Ritual Baths with Shonda Parkinson, which we will actually be getting on again next week. So make sure you're staying tuned for that. But here is the clip, and it kind of ties to trauma.
Deals with emotion as easily, and so really providing yourself that space and saying, okay, for 15 minutes, I'm going to go in. If I have just like one release point, or if I give myself that space just to touch that grief, let myself think about it, let myself presence it, it's getting present in that grief space, then I can have a moment of release. And the water is going to help. The tools are going to help release it for the moment that I'm in. Grief is a journey, it's a process. It's not like it's a one and done. That isn't how healing works. But we can give ourselves that space intentionally to deal with grief. Then when we're living our lives, if we don't want to go there, we don't want to turn towards it, we don't want to deal with it on a regular basis, we don't want, we want to preserve that time just for going into a grief space. That can be really super effective and super cleansing.
Mm-hmm. And it's really just building a safe space for you to do that, some place you can be comfortable.
Totally a safe space.
So the one part about that episode was that was all of it was good, but Erik kept going on and on with different questions, and he could tell I was getting irritated, and he's finally like, okay, you could go now.
Yeah, you know how it is on this show, everybody. Like I get a little hyper and excited, and I just keep on going.
But
the thing is, I just don't want to. I don't want to lose, the opportunity to ask these questions because it always feels weird to me to backtrack later.
No, I totally get that. We just got to come up with the system to be like, one more. Okay, one more.
Shock collars.
Okay, yeah.
That travel from North Dakota to Ohio. Look,
shock collars placed in an area that's really gonna hurt.
Right. Oh, wait. Hold on. All right, let's rethink that.
But the one thing I wanted to say about this was, it kind of coincided with the trauma, but she's talking about grief and using ritualistic baths to do that, which is I mentioned on the episode. In order to meditate, I have to do a bath with sea salt now. I can't just sit on the ground and meditate anymore just because my mind's going 100 miles a minute.
Mm-hmm. I think the fact that she brings up grief, again, as you said, it's a tie-in to this idea of trauma because grief is traumatic. There are a lot of things that people have gone through this year, myself included, with the loss of my cat in particular. That was the most effective.
And my dog.
Yeah, your dog, and had a couple other pets pass away, as well as our cousin. So it was a rough year, and there are things about grief that still creep up. They still haunt us. They still taunt us, and I'm sure it's the same for the rest of you too, who are listening. Yeah. But the one thing that she brought up again is this idea of ritual cleansing or ritual bathing, and it doesn't always have to be done in a bath. It could be done in a pool, in an ocean, under a water faucet, in a sprinkler. You can even just imagine drenching yourself in water. It doesn't even have to be physical water. The simple idea is that you are washing yourself, and you're cleansing yourself through that wash. And the other thing that she mentioned here, like 15 minutes, it could be as short as 5 minutes. It could be 30 seconds, whatever you need in that moment. It doesn't have to be much, but it's a good start. And as you build up, you might be able to add your own things to it, your own herbs or your own various salts, whatever you want, candles, etc., to help make that space more personable. more private and a little more enjoyable for you in terms of releasing that grief and those emotions.
Absolutely. All right, to save us on some time because we're already halfway through the show already, because we got stuck on AI. I'm gonna mention them, play the clips. If we have any final thoughts at the end of the show, we'll definitely get back to them. But the next one was one that I did by myself. Erik was on set somewhere, and I had Brian Byers on, and he had two comments about being advice for new paranormal investigators and about being psychic. So here we go. For those that want to pursue doing like paranormal investigations, what's the best piece of advice you could give them?
So that's a really good question. At the beginning, I always was about protecting myself, and I did it differently than a lot of people. A lot of people use smudging and stuff like that.
Right.
Those help you feel like you're being protected, so it puts you in that frame of mind. So I say protection and in any location. And it's not because something's going to attach itself to you. It's that you're dealing with a lot on the other side. There's not just human spirits, okay? And when I say that, they're different than we are. And they're not necessarily pleasant. And they like to mess with you on purpose. And the idea is they're trying to get into your head here a little bit. And they can bring you down from the inside. Holy crap stuff. I just remember I didn't understand, but it was the word that came through was that was the night O.J. Simpson died, or the day O.J. Simpson died. The seance was over and we closed it out. We looked up all the information and we found out the news he had died. We're like, holy crap. So he died on that same day and then wrote all this stuff. And so it was the last two digits of his, I forget what it was, but we were like, there's just too much weirdness there. So when we went on TikTok, I follow a bunch of other mediums. They were posting the same thing. OJ came through and said he can't see. And I'm like, that's what I got. That's what we all got. We were all getting the same thing. It was a really wild, TikTok makes it easy to see in real time what everyone else is getting.
So those were two interesting ones. This next one.
Well, hold on. Before you go start, we got plenty of time here. But one thing that I do want to mention here is he talks about protection. And in the same light, we talk about grounding too. One thing that I noticed over the years is we've had a lot of people talk to us, a lot of mediums especially, who say they know the spirits they're talking to. Right. And we've always questioned that, like, how do you know it's a good spirit? How do you know it's a human spirit? And it's crazy because despite all the people who said they know, we have seen in the last 2 years more and more psychics step forward claiming that you don't always know. And Jill, you have to protect yourself. You have to ground yourself because there are other things lurking in the shadows aside from the spirit that you're communicating with. There are things that are attached to human spirits. There are things that kind of travel in the dark spaces of the voids. And it's something that we always need to be aware of, especially when we're tracking that type of atmosphere with your psychic abilities.
Mm-hmm. For sure. This next one was actually a Throwback Thursday clip that was an episode we did as ParaTruth Radio, Aliens and Future Humans, but it was a significant clip, so I'll go ahead and play this for you because we didn't actually re-air this one yet, I don't believe.
This theory was based on some speculation that if we were to leave Earth and colonize on Mars, then over time we would go through these bursts of microevolution in which our skin tones would change, our bone mass would change, our eyes would even change, becoming larger to let in more light, for example. And so if that's the case and these aliens are future versions of us, they would have had thousands, if not millions of years of evolutionary progress, both in their bodies and in their technology, which would allow them to come back and visit us. And so we would technically be living in the past, even though we think it's the present. It's the past of what is to come for us, which is our descendants.
So anything with time travel, space travel blows my mind every time.
Well,
Us being in the past, but yeah, also being in the present. Wait, what?
and also, that kind of ties in. We've done an episode on this too of humans being from Mars, where we would have evolved from the time we left Mars till here. The opposite way,
Right. Which I
compared
believe
to aliens.
is where I got that information from too when we did that initial episode on humans on Mars. And it's more so again, it was more of a scientific aspect
Mhm.
to aliens that exist. Instead of them being a completely different species, they're potentially an evolutionary successor to ourselves. So they're still very much human. The DNA is still human to down in its finest molecules, but they're different because of these spaces that they've lived in, basically.
Right, right. All right. This next one was from the most common questions about the paranormal, and we had our friend Kat Ward on. This was actually a more
Yeah, yeah.
recent one, but it was a good one. So here we go.
Well, it's funny that you would have to keep cleansing, right? Because actually, the Bible also touches on that. Jesus actually says in Matthew 12:43, when an impure spirit comes out of a person, it goes through arid spaces or places seeking rest and does not find it. Then it says, I'll return to the house I left. And when it arrives, it finds it unoccupied, swept clean, and put in order. So then it goes and finds 7 more spirits more wicked than itself and resides there again. And the idea here is yes, you want to keep that space constantly clean, but it's important if you don't want the spirit to come back that you fill that space with something good. And of course, biblically, we're talking about with the Holy Spirit, right? You want to fill it with God. And I know we've talked to a lot of people who gone through something similar and they fill their space with positive energy, light. They try to remove anything that can be negative in their life, whether it's music or movies or individuals. So it's very important that if a spirit keeps coming back, you need to take a moment and check to see what you're filling that empty, swept up space with. Because if it's with nothing, that spirit will continuously come back, find it clean, and find a better place to rest.
And we've talked about that a lot
Yeah.
over the past years. But I can't remember exactly what Kat said where it prompted that, but it still kind of holds true. Like whether you're coming from a Christian perspective or from mainstream perspective, sorry. Something that I learned this year talking to JJ Rose is if you're trying to cleanse a house with saging it, let's say, or using some type of herb smoke to cleanse the area. I don't remember anybody ever telling us this. Maybe I'm just forgetting, but she said, open the windows. If you're not opening the windows, the spirits have nowhere to go. And you basically just push them away from you for the time being, and they didn't go anywhere. They were still there. So you didn't cleanse the house.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I fully agree with that, but regardless, I think the main point here was that there have been individuals throughout history, recent history in particular, who have tried to cleanse their house and got rid of a spirit for a short while, and only to find it comes back stronger at some point in the near future. And most times, 99% of those times, it's because they don't fill that void. They just leave it empty, and so that spirit always is going to fight to come back. And that's the main point on my part here. And I think that's what the conversation was with Kat, and why I brought that up. It's important that we fill our spaces when doing a cleansing, because otherwise it's just an open, empty space.
Right. All right. This next clip, or 2 clips, and these are the last 2 clips that we have, was Margaret Ann Lembo, Holy Guides, How to Connect with Them. That was the name of the episode. The book was about the saints and archangels and how to connect with those to help your daily life. But we'll play these real quick here.
Because my own belief system doesn't allow for that. It's like, not today, Satan. Like quite often.
Not today, Satan. Not today.
Right? I've always whenever I heard that phrase, it's like I love that. All right, not an option.
But I think also like I mean, going off of that belief system, whether well just your own personal beliefs, your faith, it's actually scripturally based. You know, the Lord says that when we pray about something, we should believe we've already received it. And so believing that, like for example, we're surrounded by a bright light that protects us from negative energies, or believing that a negative energy can't influence or walk into our territory because of the spirits that are with us or the Holy Spirit. And I think a lot of people they have this idea like if you just
And sorry, it cut you off.
if I could just what now I'm not in suspense. I don't remember.
Well, you'll have to go back and watch or listen to the episode now. All right, here's the second clip here.
Now, for people, let's just say who are just starting with wanting to reach out to archangels or saints, but they don't really know how to start or where to start or what particular angel to reach out to. And let's just say they don't have your book to guide them. How does one actually go about? Is it just research, or do they go ahead and like just ask anything to anyone who's listening, or like how would you guide them in that situation?
So I wouldn't ask anything to anyone who is just happened to maybe listening, because you don't know who you're calling out to. I would say potentially a little bit of research would help to, or looking to someone else who has the experience or knowledge, or the connection with the divine that they could find, maybe a spiritual teacher who is authentic that might be able to guide them how to reach out. But the main and the easiest way, I think, is to decide, you know what, I need help with, and then state what it is. And I'm asking for only the highest and best energies to come and guide me on my journey. I ask for the highest level, and only goodness is allowed in my space. Only love is allowed in my space. Shine light on my path so I can see what I need to see, or hear what I need to hear, know what I need to know, and reveal to me truths and help me to be a better person. And like it's like you're just talking to a good friend, but you can't see them; they're not there. And that's how I would go about it personally.
So the one thing I really loved about that is she kind of like you mentioned earlier, kind of confirmed, well, you can't really know, but you can set the intention of this is what I want, as far as talking to spirits, or angels and saints for that matter. And you mentioned it earlier. Do we really know what we're talking to here? And truthfully, we don't. We know what we think it is, but we don't know for sure.
I was testing her the little test to see what she would say if I said, "You just call it to anything, anybody."
So now you're testing the spirits.
No, I was testing Margaret.
No. I know it's in the Bible. Test the spirits.
Oh, test the spirits. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't testing her, but it's funny when we have these questions, because these are things that we write up for primarily for you guys listening. Like questions that you may have, or sometimes it's questions that you guys do have, and so we always try to state them, and sometimes for lack of a better term, in the most nuanced or low-key kind of simplistic way, right? Because you want the answers, you want to know exactly what the answer is, and if we beat around the bush, then we miss out on some of those important details that I think are simply needed, especially within this particular environment that we all kind of live in with the paranormal.
Right. So the last two are honorable mentions here, just because we really did love them. We just didn't have time to get clips for them. And that was the Giving UFO News with Christina Gomez. She's got a great show on YouTube, so make sure you check her out. And that was very close to the time that the New Jersey drones had kind of what the government called, there was debunked. It was, I forget what they were saying it was.
It was
but
everything, according to them.
well,
It was everything.
right. But it was good to get her perspective on that, because she is literally reporting on this. I don't remember if it's daily or weekly, but awesome guest. The other one that we had was the Bad Vibes Field Guide with Devin Hunter and M. Bellinger. And I think I can speak for Erik, and you can cut me off if I'm wrong, but M. Bellinger was one that we've been wanting on for years. I think literally when we started with Night Stalkers.
2007.
Yeah. That we wanted her on, and we wanted her on because she had just done documentaries about being a psychic vampire and the difference between the vampire we know in lore and what a psychic vampire is. But to get her on to talk about the Bad Vibes Field Guide, which she was actually only kind of the foreword for that book, but it was awesome to talk to both Devin and her together.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely one of the big highlights for us, and definitely a something to check off the bucket list. Getting her in a conversation on the show.
Right. So, question for you now.
Okay.
Are there any, I put stories, but topics that kind of crossed from fringe into mainstream this year for us?
From fringe into mainstream. I mean, aside from the whole, I mean, we already talked about the AI, so I ain't gonna go into that, but because that's, obviously we're talking about Terminator and Judgment Day type stuff here. But there were quite a few things overall that I think kind of jumped from the fringe to the mainstream, and the biggest thing again is going to jump right back to the UFOs. These are things that we've always speculated on, things that people see but never had clear evidence of, and now we're getting full-on video by government officials that are straight up claiming that yes, these are things that we do not understand. We don't know what they are, and they're not of U.S. territory, and as far as we know, they are not human. So I think that is very intriguing. That happened the last couple of years, but this year in particular was really big on it. So I think that was the biggest thing that kind of made that final jump, and I think it's only a matter of time before we do finally get that official, like, hey, we're here type of thing, right? And then people started getting abducted, and we have these little aliens coming out and going pew, 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 shooting things and blowing stuff up, right?
What was that?
Sorry, I started thinking about Mars attacks. But I think that was the biggest thing for sure. The second that kind of started to move was the idea of what's it called, the Lobobo dolls, Labubu dolls.
Yeah.
We talked about the god that it's supposedly based off of, and that is very fringe. That is something that we don't have any actual true evidence of, physical evidence of. We know his story through history books, through religious texts, and then the fact that it's making this interesting kind of debut as a toy. And I'm not saying that this toy is based off of this particular demon, but the similarities are pretty close. So I think that's the second thing that really kind of jumped from fringe to reality for us this year. The possibility that there is something working on the other side to get its image shown and maybe even worshipped.
Yeah, and I was going to bring up what I was talking about earlier at this particular thing, but I'm actually going to bring it up in just a few minutes here.
Suspense.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing was that UFO drone thing that happened at the end of last year, going into this year, and getting the government's explanation, and really thinking back to the Roswell incident, and where it was kind of a backpedal thing then to where, oh, it's a UFO. No, it's a weather balloon.
Right.
So I think that's where it kind of crossed over for me.
Different time, but same story.
Right. Exactly.
Over and over.
So some of the stuff that we've talked about that is maybe repeating or overlapping entities, symbols, locations. Was there anything that we covered this year or that you've noticed in mainstream media when it comes to the paranormal that kind of overlapped?
Nothing that really overlapped all that much. There were probably a couple of locations that were repeated, primarily in terms of hauntings and investigations. Was the I'm trying to remember the name of the one book. Actually, it was a haunted location of Fox something, Fox Hollow, Haunting of Fox Hollow, I think, something like that.
With Richard Estep.
Yes, Richard
Yes.
Estep. That had popped up actually a couple times throughout the year that I had noticed, not just with him and our show, but I'd seen that particular story pop up elsewhere as well online. And I thought that was pretty intriguing in and of itself and pretty significant. And aside from that, there wasn't too much overall. Symbols, I can't really say there were many there. There again, there's plenty of people starting to delve into various new age practices. And by new age, you could mean old age, right? Depending on the practice. So we've seen some symbols like the 5-pointed star kind of pop back up again quite a bit. The pentacle or the pentagram, both versions, upside down pentagram, inverted, whatever, all of them. And then, of course, we had some recurring themes, even with the crucifix and the cross, the various ways that it was created and used throughout history. That came up a few times on our show in terms of symbolism and how those symbols have been used over time, such as the mending of the original sun god of Ireland and the Christian crucifix to create the Celtic cross.
Okay. Now, this one we've already kind of talked about, but I wanted to bring this up. Technology, AI, and paranormal overlap. We have gone into great lengths at the beginning of the episode about AI, but something I did earlier this year, I don't remember if I told you this. I think I did, but maybe I didn't. I was literally having a full conversation with AI, and I said, look, if I wanted to use AI as a tool for doing paranormal investigations, what would that look like? So we were having this conversation, saying that it can analyze audio, stuff like that. But my thought was, well, why can't you do something like, instead of using a medium, instead of using a spirit box, what if you set the parameters to AI in an investigation, and it could just be, you don't even have to present it as evidence, just be like, look, I want you to listen after I do or say a question and see what comes up. And it basically said, I would love to do this experiment with you. So I think, in a sense, since we were talking about AI as a tool, that maybe that is a very valuable,
Valuable.
God, I haven't had that much
Come
drink. Valuable tool to have. Where, I mean, if you want to have a medium in your team, that's fine. But use AI. Give the medium a break. Give some of the other pieces of equipment a break, and see what AI comes up with. And again, it's one of those things where AI might put a certain part of the team out of business because it's analyzing the audio for you.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on that?
I mean, nothing too crazy. Like, I agree with you. I think it could definitely be utilized as a tool, but I think we still need to be very careful with using it, not in the sense that we shouldn't trust AI, but the more that we use some of these tools that we can't use as evidence, then the less evidence we're actually gaining. Like, it's one thing, especially in our investigations, if it's for you personally, I think it's great because you can use that as evidence for yourself. But if it's for a client, you can't really produce or show that evidence to them. You can't really give it and be like, this is what AI says, and take it as fact, right? So much like with the spirit box, something we don't typically use to present evidence. or as presented evidence. I think we need to
Right.
be careful and keep our tools used sparingly, but in an equal fashion as well.
Right. Now, we both have a healthy
Yeah.
skepticism when it comes to the paranormal. Is there anything we've learned in the past year using that?
Um, I think the big thing is that our skepticism prevents us from being gullible. We know several people at least, or have met several people throughout the year that tend to be so gullible on some of these things that they just broadcast everything as fact, only to later be um, confused as to why that fact is then smashed with a truth, right? What they think is fact is with a truth. Um, and so I think skepticism has always played a very important part for us, for our study of the paranormal, because it's one thing to be skeptic and say, oh, I was wrong, this thing is real, right? We're just saying, oh no, I'm 100% this thing is real. And then we go, no, we're wrong. Here's the evidence to prove it. If nothing else, it at least protects our pride at the very least. So
For sure.
and then finally wrapping things up kind of here, we're getting close to the end here, is why really why is uncertainty a part of the journey? And,
I mean,
yeah,
I think the biggest thing for that is, if you're not questioning stuff, um, then being in the paranormal is going to be a very hard time for you, because there's going to be numerous times that you're uncertain that you heard something in an EVP. You were uncertain what a picture was, but that's how you learn and grow as a paranormal investigator, is learning how to debunk those things. Same thing goes for UFO sightings, stuff like that too. Or like we mentioned earlier, the videos that have come out over the past year, in the past couple years. There's been so many videos I've sent to you, and you're like, yeah, no, you can see this or that, where the normal person would not see it, compared to somebody who's studied video as you have.
right. Yeah, no, I think uncertainty is definitely important in the journey for any paranormal investigator, uh, simply because it keeps you asking questions, and to ask questions, that's the whole point. We are scientists at heart, maybe not what the world thinks as scientists, but we are parascientists, and it's important to ask questions in order to find answers. Because if all we have are answers, then we learn nothing. So, and better, to keep learning than to look like a fool who thinks he knows everything and learns that you know nothing. I'm just saying.
The only reason I laugh is because, like, some of the explanations you give, it's like, it's very insightful, but we took a really long time to get there.
I know. Yeah. That's the thing. That's what everybody comes here for, right? Nope. No. So one thing that we just want to do here is really invite everybody listening to the Paratruther community to help shape what's next for our show as we move into 2026, the new year. We have roughly 52 new episodes on the block, right, over the next year. So there are plenty of spaces open that we have not locked down. So if anybody has any ideas for guests or topics that they want to hear about on this show, please feel free to reach out to us via email, via um, messenger on Facebook, or send us a comment on Facebook, YouTube, etc. We will see those, and we'll probably get back to you within an hour or two in most cases. But you can also join our Paratruther community on Facebook. It's just Paratruther, and you guys can kind of get in on the stories, on the conversations that we share in there. Everything is everything is that we put in there is exclusive to the individuals in that group. So we are sharing videos, conversations, stories that we don't share anywhere else. So if you want to be a part of that and learn more and just kind of communicate with us, hang out, not just with us, but with our other listeners and fans and show hosts, definitely do that. It's a good place to be.
Absolutely. Like one of the biggest things that we did that was not shared on our normal social medias that we did there was the lore cards for our Christmas episode. So we will start doing more exclusives for that. And at some point, maybe we'll do a subscription thing too. But right now, we are offering it free to everybody, and I really truly want to keep that free for everybody. But at some point, we do have to fund the show, but
Right.
we won't go there until we have to.
With that said, if you do get in free, you stay locked in free.
Oh,
We will
right.
not be charging
100%.
If we do a subscription fee, you'll be one of the few that don't have to pay subscription. So more reason to join in now.
Absolutely. So I do want to give two quick shout outs. One is to Cat Ward, who listens
Always.
to our episodes all the time, comments on our YouTube videos. The other is Heidi Goal. I hope I pronounced your last name right, Heidi. I apologize if I didn't. Who's always sharing not just our shows, but all the shows for UPRN Network. And I really, really want to make clear that we love all of our listeners, but those two have gone above and beyond. So if you want to hear a shout out for you, make sure you're getting in on the conversation. We're always doing polls. Make sure you're getting into the either YouTube or the group where it's a little bit easier to do a poll where we on our other social medias, it's a little more like a comment. Comment on every episode so we know what you liked, didn't like, because we can't grow as a show without those. And email us throughout the year if you have ideas for episodes, if you have comments and you don't want to put it on social media. ParaTruthRadio@gmail.com. Yes, it's not ParaTruth Reborn because we rebranded and we had a solid email there. Make sure you submit your own theories as well, because we can talk till we're blue in the face about certain topics, but without the interaction from you guys, and maybe even call us out if we had something wrong. Please call us out, because we can't grow as hosts until we have your interaction.
Right.
We'll have you guys vote on future topics as well. We've kind of done that with a poll once, and maybe that's the best way to do it. And share your personal experiences. It can be anonymous if you want us to share your name, even if it's just your first name. If you just want to give us a pseudonym, that's totally fine too. But we really, really, really love our listeners, and without our paratruthers, this show does not work. Half of what we do is to talk about that comes from you guys. So reach out, let us know what you guys are wanting. I think that with that being said, is there any final thoughts or expectations for 2026?
No, just to keep moving forward, just keep on, carefully opening doors and learning new truths.
Yeah, let's not open the doors that we already have done already. Anyways,
I think 2026 is going to be a big year for the paranormal, and we're going to have a lot of great guests joining us. We have some returning, and we'll have some new faces as well. So plenty to look forward to, plenty to learn. And again, we would love to get some of our guests on the show too, or guys, sorry, some of our listeners on the show as well. If we know you guys all have your own views and opinions on the paranormal, we'd love to hear them right here live. So if that's something you're interested, again, reach out to us. But again, it's gonna be a great year, 2026. Happy New Year, everybody, and I hope it's a safe one for you all.
Yeah, and I will piggyback off that. If you want to kind of voice your opinion and you don't want to necessarily be on the show with us, if you go to our website, there is a voicemail message system on there as well. Leave us a voicemail. Tell us if it's okay to share it. If it's something personal, please make sure you leave out names of people and places and events, unless you have specific authorization to do so. But that's one of those things where it's like, we would love to have you on as a guest, of course. But if it's uncomfortable for you, absolutely, we can make it work otherwise. And yeah, keep it safe this new year. If you're drinking, please make sure you get a ride. Make sure you're with loved ones. This is one of the most depressing times of the year for many people. So definitely reach out to. You can reach out to people that are close to you. Reach out to us. We would be glad to talk stuff through with you. Um, but yeah, normally I play Auld Lang Syne for copyright purposes. I won't do it this year. But as we said at the beginning, this has been a live show on 107.7 FM New Orleans, 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast, and United Public Radio Network. Until next week and next year, where you will find us same time, same channel. My name is Justin.
And I'm Erik. Peace.